This is Scott Spears, and welcome to Scott Spears Now. Today I'm joined by Alfred Tibor, a Holocaust survivor and sculptor. His artwork can be found in nearly 500 private collections and museums throughout the world. He has written a story recounting his tremendous life, Celebration of Life. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to this program Alfred Tibor. And here is the book, Celebration of Life. You will want to get a copy of this. Alfred, thank you so much for making the trip.
You're very welcome. I am very glad to be here.
Thank you. Want to start with the childhood, Alfred. You were born in Hungary in 1920. What was your childhood like?
It's a wonderful question, only it's very hard to give you a short answer.
We can go long.
Okay, only I have long because you have the book. So you have the answer in the book. Only I was born in a little village in Hungary, and actually I would like you to know it is very few Jews were in that little village, and I was myself when I went for reached the 6 years of age, and I went to the elementary school, and I was the only one little Jewish boy there.
What is that like to be the only Jewish person, Jewish boy, in a situation?
It's a very hard question, because I can't give you an answer with one sentence. Actually, I was so lonesome in the school, and everybody was calling me a dirty Jew. So I was hated, and that's the conclusion. That's my beginning of my life. I get hatred.
As an adolescent, what's it like to be called a dirty Jew?
You are asking questions which is very hard to give a simple answer. It was a puzzle for me why they are hating me. Only after that I discovered, because I had to go to the church.
Have you ever...
Jewish boy going to the church. And that time it was a fashion for the priests or for any religious person to talking about Jesus Christ who was killed by the Jews.
Mm. At what age would you say you understood that? Why they disliked you?
Because I was 6 years of age.
Mm.
And that was the big question. Why they are hating me?
When you got older and you realized why they were hating you, how old were you?
Oh, it was a continuation of your life. It wasn't a border or how long. I was trying to explain to everybody I am a different person than you are.
How did you explain that to people?
To the children, not to the people.
Mm.
The children, those 6 years old, they were hating blindly, because Sunday when they were going with the parents to the church, and after that Monday morning we had to go to the church also, and I had to go to the church. It makes no difference, I was Jewish, only I had to go to the church. And that time was the customary how the priests were talking about Jesus Christ.
Want to talk a little bit about high school. In high school, you became a self-taught gymnast.
Mhm.
Now, how did that all come about?
It's, you know, all in my life. In the beginning of my life, I had to prove to my other schoolmates, I am better than you are. I could do better things than you are. And that was the beginning of my life. And I inherited two little things from my dear father. Two watercolor paintings, which my father, rest in peace, was making. And I realized he had a talent for to being an artist. Only he became a merchant because the father was telling him what to do, and that was the time. That time, no explanation for a freedom of a children to select whatever he wanted to do. Only I was defying the whole hatred what I got. And I wanted to be different. Why and how I wanted to be different. I started to make drawings when I was 6 years old. And I realized they don't know how to do that. I realized I am different. And that even was fire on fire. Because I wanted to prove I am a different person than they are, the hatred was coming out more intensively. So it is very hard today to understand people what is the hatred means. I know. I lived in it. And the conclusion is, right now you are asking the question, which I can't give you in a one interview. That's why I made and wrote my book. And the only purpose I wrote the book with the help of the young lady, because I wanted to know hatred doesn't work.
Yeah, it's very profound, and I want to talk about that. You say people don't understand the hatred today. What don't they understand as opposed to what you went through? How was the hate different?
The hatred is not different. The hatred is the same, just in my eye, in my struggle to improving the relationship with the other children who were hating blindly because they learned from the parents and they learned from the priest and they learned from the teacher. So everybody was hating everybody.
Want to talk a little bit, Alfred, about being a self-taught gymnast. How did you know how to be a gymnast if you were self-taught?
It's everything a child has a discovery. And the discovery is, for me, I realized I was getting fresh dough from my dear mother's baking, and I realized when I started to kneading the fresh dough, and I realized I could make little figures with it. And that was the discovery to me. I could use the fresh dough like today you are having the clay or whatever you have. I discovered this I could make little figures. And that was the idea to me to do something.
Alfred, to you, what does it mean to be Jewish? If you describe that.
To be Jewish,
Yes. What does that mean to you?
to me, it's to being a human being. That's the Jewish religion. That's a very simple way to say it. I am just as the same as you are. We are no different. Only to being a Jew is to being a human being.
I think you're...
That's what you could learn from that little book.
Well, I encourage everybody to buy this book, Celebration of Life. I do have some more questions here. Alfred, in 1936, you qualified for the Hungarian team for the 1936 Summer Olympics. But when you went to register for the team, you were denied when the team discovered you were Jewish. You were not allowed to compete as a member of the Hungarian team in Berlin in 1936. Tell me that story. How did that make you feel?
How could I tell you a story when it is happening in your beginning of your life? When you are struggling and discovering certain things, you are doing something which the other children are not doing. It is a discovery was for me. It is a discovery for me when I was making little figures from the fresh dough, and I put it into the window and I made little figures from it. It is new for me. It was new for me. And everything, whatever I discovered myself, how I became a gymnast. You know, I didn't know what is the gymnast only because I had a opportunity across the street of my village where I lived. There was a mill, and I was going there into the mill many times, flour mill. The peasants were bringing the wheat in and making the flours for the bread or for anything. And I was lucky, I was going to the mill. And because in the mill there are old piece of irons, old piece of certain things, it's all discovery for a 6 or 7 years old boy. It was everything discovery for me.
But what does it feel like, Alfred, to be an Olympic athlete? You had qualified. And for them to say no because you were Jewish.
The whole idea, we were talking in the car when we were coming here. It is the whole idea. I knew that they are not going to qualify me just because I had a gymnastic teacher who was well known in the whole world. He was one of the judges usually before the anti-Semitism was flourishing. He was a well-known gymnastic authority, and he was my teacher, my gymnastic teacher, and all the others in the official school, gymnastic school, they knew him because he was a well-known person who became many times judges for international occasion. And that was the reason, actually, he was sending me to the judges, front of the judges, because he wanted to show he has gymnasts who would be good enough to be on the Olympic team. And it was just a attitude of him. He didn't tell me, only he knew it after I found out. He knew it, they are not going to select me because I am Jewish. Only when I was going in the gymnasium, and there was 3 judges, and they asked me, young man, you are here for a tryout of the Olympic team. What would you like to do? And I said, I am selecting the parallel bar because that's my favorite. And they said, go ahead, do whatever you would like to. And I made a 5 or 10 minutes exercise on the parallel bar. And after that, every of them, 3 of them, it was the same way, the judgment and judging the same way as in the Olympics. The 3 judges had to give the result. And I got all from the 3 judges a result 9.5. The 10 was the best. Right now it is different, only several years ago still was the 10 is the best. So I got, and they said, oh young man, it's wonderful you are doing, go to the corner, there are the ladies and going to register you to the team. And I was going to the ladies, and one lady was asking, what's your name? And I said, my name is Alfred Goldstein. I changed my name. My name was originally Alfred Goldstein. And the next lady was asking, are you Jewish? And I said, yes, I am a Jew. We don't need Jews. I was kicked out. No, I was a 16 years old boy, and I started to cry because they knew, the judges who gave me the 9.5, they knew it, what is the situation, and they sent me because I deserved, because I was a good gymnast. And the lady was telling me, we don't need Jews.
How do you...
One slap into your face, and it was 1936.
How do you feel after something like that, Alfred, when this is the Olympics and you had qualified and they wouldn't let you in just because you were Jewish? When you cried, what are you feeling?
You know, again, you are asking questions which I supposed to give you an answer with how I feel. The whole life of mine, not up to 16, up to the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, or to growing up, I was the kind of person who always figured out something, to do something different. And that was the whole idea, how I got the idea from my dear father, who was a merchant, only he was studying in Bratislava. It is 50 kilometers from Vienna, and he was studying to be a rabbi because his father was a very pious religious Jew. And my dear father had a talent to paint. He made 2 watercolor pictures. And after that I found out, when I started to grow up, because that was my idol, that 2 pictures. My dear father has a talent, and I felt already I was making different drawings which the other children couldn't do. And I discovered myself I had a feel to certain things, and there was a magazine which was bringing me alive. Don't think the magazine like today. It was a colorful magazine, only it is in a newsprint and always talking to children and grown-ups. And there I found out certain things which I should learn. Now here comes the clue of my whole life. I do not have any official schooling as an artist. Only I became an artist when I was a little boy. Do you know the one-point perspective? How it is illustrated?
Yes.
With the railroad, and the trees are getting small, and the railroad is pointing in one point. You know how I discovered this? I was walking 8 kilometers on the railroad ties, and it always was in one point, and I never found it. And after I realized the whole knowledge, the whole thing to able to do a paintings, you have to know the perspective, the one-point perspective and the two-point perspectives. And I discovered that myself walking 8 kilometers, and I realized it's never meets. And I realized as a little boy, it is the whole thing is to painting, a paintings. You are building in a lie. I was 8 years old when I discovered the railroad never meets. Only to make it to look like a good drawing, it has to meet. So I realized when I was a little boy, the whole thing is a lie.
Mm.
And the same thing, there was an old doctor, and I was going to learning the body, the bone construction. A doctor I was asking, and I was a little boy, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years old. I studied that way. If you see a modern piece, this little piece, I wouldn't able to do if I wouldn't know the body construction from the bone construction. Because even if you are a modern piece doing, you still should feel how is the body is constructed. I studied that without school. And that's the privilege what I have today. I am making modern piece, or if you are coming to my studio, I have realistic piece. Here is another modern piece which you could see. The bone construction, you should see it, because no other way I picked up the modern shape and how is the body goes and how is the shape of a body and how is holding the little baby, the mother. I learned that in my life. And I am still learning. 92 and I still learning. That's God gave me that knowledge.
You know, Alfred, it's been such an amazing life, and the art is amazing. Everybody thinks so. We talked about the galleries that you're in. There are some other things in your life that I do want to touch on, though. In 1940, you were forced to be a slave laborer for the Hungarian Army Labor Battalion. How did that happen? What was that like? I mean, here you had been somebody who was able to qualify for the Olympics, and now you're being used as a slave laborer.
You are asking questions which is impossible to give a straight answer. When you are growing up in hatred, and when you are having a ambition to be somebody, something in your life, and everywhere where you are going, it is just you find barrier. Only I was finding humanity in the hatred too. Because if I wouldn't find certain people who would help me to realize that I am worth it to be helped, I wouldn't be here. That's why my whole life I am a sculptor and I am dealing with humanity. Every piece which I am making is dealing with humanity.
Let me ask you one more question, Alfred. I know it's going to be a tough one. I know it will be. I know it will. It's just amazing to think of, though. You were captured by the Soviet Army and spent 6 years as a prisoner in a Siberian prison camp. Of the 273 men in your labor battalion sent to this camp, you were only one of 2 to survive.
Yes.
You were freed from the camp in 1947. It was discovered that of your 37 immediate people, of your family, and 82 other relatives, you and your brother Andre were the only 2 that had survived the Holocaust. I can't imagine something like that. I want to back up for a second and ask you this. What were the conditions like in the Siberian prison camp?
In the Siberian prison camp, it is you were 250 kilometers from Arkhangelsk, which is the northern sea, and 500-mile radius. You didn't have anything, just snow. In September started to snowing, and in April and May stopped snowing. On that place where I was, I wouldn't survive in that place because we had to do hard labor, cutting out trees from an area which was burned in 1930s, forest fire. And we had the chopped trees, and we had to cut up 3 cubic yards daily, to digging out from the snow and cutting the pieces in the order to make 3 cubic yards, and I wouldn't survive that time if I wouldn't be an artist. When they found out I am an artist, how did they find out? I had pencil and paper in my pocket, and I always making sketches. And when the soldiers, the guards, found out I am an artist, better to say in Russian, I am a художник, right away I got privileged. Two kind of people get privileged in the prison camp, the musicians and the artists. Why I survived? Because when the first soldier found out I could make a portrait with a pencil drawing, right away all of them, they were coming and saying, "Рисуешь me," which means make a portrait from me. That saved my life. That very little simple thing.
When it ended, Alfred, and you had found out that your family was all gone because of this,
Yes.
how can...
All the 5.5 years, nothing was keeping me alive, just dreaming to going back to Hungary in the top of a tank and machine gun in my hand, and instead of greeting people, killing them. Until one point, and listen this, because that's my turning point in my whole life. When I found out my brother and me, 2 of us alive, and all of my immediate family, 36 of them, had been killed. And that was giving me a thought. Wait a minute. If I am going to do the same thing, what did they do to me? I can't pay back my mother's eye if I am killing a child's eye. I had to be changed. And that's that minute in my life, 1947, August 11, when I found out how I lost my family. That was my turning point in all in my life. I wouldn't be here with you if I wouldn't made that change in 1947, August 11.
Are you looking for affordable office space in Marion? The professional building located at 685 Delaware Avenue is the place for you. For more information, call 740-383-6803. Office space is now available. Again, telephone number 740-383-6803. Trella Romine's long-awaited autobiography, My Not-So-Ordinary Life, is now available. Trella Himmerly Romine is a Marion native who lives near Caledonia, Ohio at Paradise, her home along the Whetstone River, for the past 65 years. She is a 1933 graduate of Harding High School and former owner of Himmerly's Flowers. She also has played an integral role at the Marion County Historical Society. Copies of My Not-So-Ordinary Life are available in hardbound and softbound editions at Heritage Hall, located at 169 East Church Street, and at Himmerly's Flowers, located at 615 East Center Street, both in Marion. You can also order books online at www.paradisebooks.com. My Not So Ordinary Life, the autobiography of Trella Romine. It's can't miss. Whether you are buying a home, selling a home, or just want to know more about real estate, call Curry Klingel, Real Estate Professional. He will assist you with all of your real estate needs. Curry is located at 1794 Marion Waldo Road in Marion. Telephone number 740-361-6996. Curry is also on the net at www.inahurrycallcurry.com. In a hurry, call Curry today. So what would you say is the philosophy since 1947 of Alfred Tibor's life?
I am here to telling to the people hatred doesn't work. You are not different. You are having the same eye. You love the same way. You produce the same way. You are a human being. And the best religion, if we are talking about and you want to know the opinion of me, I am not a pious religious Jew. Only I am a Jew. And how I became a sculptor, if you would like to know, I am going to tell you.
I do.
All in my life, I did whatever was able to do. I had ambition. God gave me the strength to do it all the time. I never did anything which I didn't wanted to do. All the time I was saying whatever anybody can do, I could do better. Why? Because I want to do better. That's my book is saying that also. If I wouldn't have a willpower which God gave me, whatever you are telling what is God, God gave me everything, whatever I had.
Let's talk about this for a second, Alfred. God. What happens when we leave this planet? When we die? What happens? Where do we go?
Nobody knows. We are going to ash, dust to dust. We are having something in my life or in our life, and I have to do it in the way how I think it is right. I have a vision, and all the time, and it is not a slogan to me. Every day is a beautiful day. The sun is shining all the time. That's my philosophy.
With that philosophy, how do you get that when your family was killed the way they were, when you were denied your rightful place in the Olympics, when you were called these horrible names when you were a child? There are people who get up in the morning who say, I don't want to get out of bed. How can you be so happy after going through all that?
Because I believe the sun is shining. The sun was shining when it was horrible. Still was shining. And I could tell you a little episode, if you would like
Please
to know
do.
it. A president It happened in 1978. 1978 we had a snowstorm. Do you remember?
I remember 78.
Okay. A snowstorm, and I was working that time in 1800 Moller Road in Columbus, Ohio, as an advertising man. And I was the only one guy who walked in from North Cassidy, 425 North Cassidy, 3 miles away from the office. I was walking into the office, and the telephone operator was there only one from the whole building, about 300 people supposed to come in. Only in the snowstorm I was walking in, and when I was opening the door, the lady said, "Alfred, what the hell you are looking for here in this terrible weather?" And I said, "What terrible?"
Mm.
She said, "It is snowing, it is pouring, it's terrible." I said, "No, the sun is shining." This is a precedent in my life. It was 1978, and Leonore was her name, and I said, "You know, Leonore," and I reached into my pocket, and I found $50 in it. And I said, "You know what? Here is the $50 for you. Go to the airport and get a ticket to any place, Cincinnati or Cleveland, whatever you could get for the $50. And go into the airline, go to the machine, and 5 minutes above the cloud, you're going to see the sun shining. You just have to believe it. This is it. The sun is always shining. The most terrible way. When I was sleeping on the snowfield and I found beauty on the 38 centigrade below zero in the Russian battlefield, where we were working and picking up mind. When you found the mind, that was your end. That was the 4th Labor Battalion. And I saw the beauty at night, the sky and the stars. Always I was the crazy artist, because I found beauty everywhere.
Does anything make you mad?
What?
Does anything make you mad? Does anything...
Sure, it makes me mad. It makes me mad when the people are not human beings. And when we were hated, I didn't understand why. Only I couldn't take it. And I am telling you a little episode. This is what I am full of episode in my life. That's why I have strength. The Hungarian officer in 1942 November, when we were greeted in the battlefield as slave laborers at the Don River, and he was standing up in a pile of snow and telling us, "You Jews, you are never going to go back to Hungary. Just your dog tag is going to go back." And there I was, a 20 years old, actually 22 years old, young man, and I said to him in myself, "No, you are wrong. I am going to go back. I am going to go back to Hungary and telling to the people how and how rotten you are, how you were handling us, because we are same human being like you are. You love the same way as we are, and I am going to go back. And you know, I found out in a January offense, 300,000 Hungarian perished. Soldiers at the Don River. If you look it up, your history book, you're going to find out at the Voronezh fight where the Hungarians were standing, 300,000 Hungarian soldiers perished. And I am almost 100% sure that officer was in it. And I am here with you talking about that situation. That gives me a strength. That gives me right now a strength to me to be the future human being. Because you are asking me. And I could explain to you my reality. And that's my reality.
What is the greatest accomplishment in your life? What are you most proud of?
I have to tell you a little episode of my life. Because I am not going to tell the story how I came to Columbus. I am just going to tell you how I became a sculptor. And right away you are going to learn one thing. It was a destiny. It happened in 1973 when I came to Columbus. And when I came to Columbus, I was hired by a gentleman, Jerome Shutterstein, who was bringing me to Columbus. And because he was a pious religious Jew, he invited me to come to the synagogue in 1973 high holidays to the Agudas Achim synagogue. And I went there. I went there with my wife and my son. And that happened, a man, a Holocaust survivor, was walking up to the pulpit and talking about a Holocaust memorial he wants to make. He was a Holocaust survivor and wanted to collecting money for making a Holocaust memorial. And that time I was sitting in the 10th row, and I said to my son, who was 6 years old when we were coming, no, he was 22 years old. And I said, Tom, I am going to make the memorial. And he said, Daddy, are you crazy? How could you make a memorial? You never made any three-dimensional pieces. I said, you don't know me yet. I approached the gentleman and I said, you don't need any money. I am going to have an idea, and I am going to going to the Lang bookstore, and I am going to buy 5 pounds of clay. I am going to make my idea and sketches and bring the whole committee together, because I am going to make the Holocaust memorial. You want to see the memorial? It is on the first picture of the book where I am starting the It is on the end.
At the end here.
Now, on the beginning of the picture.
Beginning of the pictures.
That's the piece.
That's it?
Yeah,
My goodness. Put back over here. There we go.
that's the piece.
My goodness.
Okay? My boss was giving me a chance. He said, Alfred, go to the warehouse and select a corner. And I am going to make a room. I am going to put heater and the air condition, and you start to work. I made my entirely first sculpting piece. It is a 9-foot clay piece. And meantime, it is the beauty of it. I knew a little bit the Bible. And I illustrated the Ezekiel dry bones. That's a part of the Old Testament when God is promising to the Jews to a better life. Through the ashes, through the dry bones, the Jews going to be alive. And that was the theme which I am illustrating. And there I used the knowledge of the human being, because you can see it is a realistic piece. A man holding up his arm, and the whole thing is he is a survivor. And the smoke is coming out from the stacks because I was illustrating the Ezekiel dry bones. Through the ashes, through the dry bones, Israel is going to be alive. So, from the smoke is becoming a illustration of the flag, and the flag is the Israeli flag. From the smoke I am showing the continuation of the promise, what Ezekiel was promising to the Jews. And meantime, the beauty, it came accidentally. The Rabbi Rubinstein, found a poem by Emma Lazarus. You know who was Emma Lazarus?
Mm-hmm.
Found a poem about the Ezekiel dry bones. And meantime, instead of the Bible quotation, I put it there, the quotation of Emma Lazarus. Emma Lazarus lived more than 200 years ago, and he had a vision about the modern Israel, and she made a poem about the Ezekiel dry bones, and I put it there. It is on the book. You could quote and you could read it.
Okay.
Through the ashes, through the dry bones, and I put it there. On this case, I created a American Holocaust memorial.
You know,
That's way it is happened. I became a sculptor.
Alfred, the final question I would have for you. You're 92 years old. My goodness, what an amazing life. What an amazing philosophy. What's the secret to getting to be 92? How have you done it?
I can't give you the answer. I have a positive feeling. I am doing things and it is challenging. And I have a willpower. Who gave me the willpower? God gave me the willpower. That's why I survived. That's why it has a reason why I am here to you. And my reasoning is I am trying to explain through you hatred doesn't work. That's my conclusion to you. That's why I wrote the book, or better to say, the young lady who helped me out with my poor English and putting in words my sayings, and she spent more than 2 years to write this book. And I have a gratitude to her which you can't pay with money. Money is not everything. Humanity is everything. And I would like to embrace each other all the time. If I would have an arm to embrace the whole world, I would embrace the whole world. And that's me.
Alfred, I can't thank you enough for being here today. The book is a celebration of life, the Alfred Tibor story. Alfred, it's been one of the great pleasures interviewing you. I thank you so much.
I thank you very much to listen me, and if I was a little bit more than what you were thinking with your simple questions, I just have to explain to you in a certain way hard question you were giving to me, and it is very hard to give you the short answer.
You did.
My life is the answer.
You did just fine. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.